He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named and rouse him at the name of Crispin. He that outlives this day and sees old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say, tomorrow is St. Crispin. Then will he strip his sleeve and show his scars and say, these wounds I had on St. Crispin's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then will our names familiar in his mouth as household words. Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son. And Crispin shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world. But we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed will think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speaks their fault with us, here on St. Crispin's Day! Hi everybody, it's Anthony. Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite things in the entire world, and that is the works of William Shakespeare, and more specifically his use of Iambic Pentameter. Now, if you don't already know, William Shakespeare was born in Stratford-upon-Avon, Warwickshire, England in 1567 and died in 1616, having only lived about 51 years of age. In that time, Shakespeare became the most popular playwright in England and, subsequently in post-mortem, became the most important playwright in the entire English-speaking world. Ever heard the phrase, all stories can be traced back to the Bible or Shakespeare? There's a reason for that. In his time, Shakespeare wrote 37 plays, 154 sonnets, and a couple miscellaneous poems that we know of. Of those names, you might recognize the Tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, the Tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, Othello, the Moor of Venice, Much Ado About Nothing, Midsummer Night's Dream, the Tragedy of Macbeth, and so on and so on. He has many, many more. His poems, you might recognize the one that's referred to as Sonnet 18 from its initial line, shall I compare these to a summer's day? Now, enough about Shakespeare. We're not going to talk a lot about his life and his other works today. What I'd mainly like to talk about is Iambic Pentameter, which Shakespeare used in all of his plays and poems. Now, if you don't know anything about poetry, you may be asking me, Anthony, what are you and your ruffled collar talking about? Iambic pentameter. By definition, iambic pentameter is a line in a poem with 5 metrical feet consisting of one stressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Now let's break that down. We've got a line in a poem with 5 metrical feet. Now, a feet, or a pair of feet, means 2 syllables. So 1 foot, 2 foot, a pair of feet is 2 syllables. But we've got 5 of them, so that means we've got 10 syllables in a line of poetry or dialogue in his play. And consisting of one unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. Now, the syllables and the way that we stress them refers to the iambs, because a unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable is referred to as an iamb in poetry. Now that is how we emphasize the words that we say in the poem or the dialogue, referring to the importance in them. For example, let's take a look at a single line from the monologue that I did at the beginning of the video, which comes from Shakespeare's Henry V, and it's his St. Crispin Day speech.
Warning, warning, warning.
Shakespeare was a rebel, a poetic punk. Shakespeare is an OCD person's worst nightmare. Shakespeare didn't always follow his own rule for iambic pentameter. Shakespeare played mainly with that pentameter line. He generally kept to the iambs, But with the pentameter, Shakespeare sometimes needed to cheese that 10 syllables and would sometimes use an 11th syllable in his lines of poetry. Now, you might go crazy. Believe me, I feel crazy just reading his work sometimes. But that 11th syllable was sometimes needed to allow some words and some of his poetic meanings to come through properly in each line. So if you see an 11th syllable, I promise it's not going to do much to change the rhythm of what you're going to see. It's just, it's there. You're going to have to get used to it. I had to get used to it. I'm sorry. Now the line that I want to look at is, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. We've got the first two words of it, we few. Now, Shakespeare wants to focus on that word few. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. Shakespeare wants to show Henry V's army is small and few. So he's taking those words, we few, into that I am. We few. Few is going to be that stressed syllable, so we is going to stay in that unstressed spot. Now we have to follow it with another unstressed syllable. He wants to repeat himself for dramatic effect, but he needs to add something new to it to be more dynamic. So, we few. We happy few. If you look at that word happy, say the word happy out loud to yourself. How do you emphasize it? Do you emphasize it with the first syllable or the second syllable of happy? Happy. I pronounce it with the first syllable like emphasized. That second, it sounds weird if I emphasize the second one. Happy. Happy. Are you happy? No, I'm happy. Are you happy? No, I'm happy. So that's how it's going to work. Say a line of dialogue, see where you're emphasizing it, and see if you can change your words around to put them in I am. With Shakespeare's line, we few, we happy few, we band of brothers. Once again, say those words out loud. We band of brothers. Yes, that 11th syllable is unstressed. Once again, it's there. I'm sorry. Get over it. I highly suggest you take a look at more of Shakespeare's work. You will see Iambic Pentameter in all of his work. If you want somewhere to go, I highly suggest the Tragedy of Macbeth. It is one of my favorite plays. He uses Iambic Pentameter all the way through. It is a grippingly dark play about ambition, revenge, magic, kingdoms, all set in medieval Scotland. It's fantastic. Now, Shakespeare is often known to be a difficult read, so if you're having trouble reading it, I highly suggest an adaptation. There's a bunch of adaptations you can choose from. There is a movie version starring Sean Connery, a movie version starring Michael Fassbender. There's also one by the BBC called Shakespeare Retold Macbeth. And it is set in a 4-star kitchen instead of medieval Scotland, and it stars James McAvoy. It's a lot of fun. I highly suggest you check that out. Now that you kind of know the rules of Iambic Pentameter, I would like to issue you a challenge. Write your own lines of Iambic Pentameter. Throw them down there in the comments. I want to read them. Give it a shot. If you like it, write maybe a scene. If you get through a scene, write a whole stinking play. Have fun with it. I would love to read whatever you have. Show me what you got. It'll be a ton of fun. Now, in good faith, I wrote my own.
Potato salad, the savory nectar the gods bestowed on man's unworthy life.
Note to self, stop writing when you're hungry. Bye, everybody.